Today, startling news for some. The notorious one-time cocaine kingpin of D.C., Rayful Edmond, has been released from a federal prison. Edmond served more than 3 decades of a life sentence, his crimes helping to inspire our City Under Siege coverage in the 1980s. But Edmond has also worked as a government informant, leading in part to his early release. Fox 5's Bob Barnard is live in Northeast D.C. with all the details. Bob?
Hey there, Shamari. Rayful Edmond's base of operations was in this Northeast D.C. neighborhood around 4th and M Street. The Federal Bureau of Prisons today says that Rayful Edmond was released from custody yesterday and transferred to a halfway house. They're not saying where, but the Bureau's Nashville, Tennessee office is now in charge of his case. You're about to hear from a longtime D.C. activist who says he's known Rayful Edmonds for years, and he spoke to him yesterday.
He told me he's going to a halfway house. You know, he didn't say where, but he said he'd get back with me.
I'm back better than ever.
This is video that's been circulating on social media today, purported to be the now 59-year-old Rayful Edmond in an airport, just having been released from prison.
When I spoke to him, he was in the airport, you know, going to get on another plane.
We spoke to Tyrone Parker today. He's a founding member of a D.C.-based organization called Alliance of Concerned Men and has known Rayful Edmond for years, since he became a federal prisoner.
He's doing well. He's happy, as you can almost imagine. It's a miracle that he's home.
Rayful Edmond was arrested at age 24, sentenced in federal court in 1990 to life in prison for basically introducing crack cocaine to D.C., helping the city earn the title the murder capital of the U.S. in the 1980s, convicted of running a criminal enterprise of about 150 people, raking in $300 million a year, responsible for the murders of at least 30 people. Speaking to Fox 5 in prison shortly after his conviction.
From what I've been reading in the newspaper and seeing on the news, Washington, D.C. is worse than it was when we was out on the street, so how could it be us?
But Edmond received another 30-year sentence for dealing massive amounts of drugs from his Pennsylvania prison cell. Now, many years later, his petition to be released from prison early has been granted. Jason Downs has been Edmond's attorney for the past 7 years.
He feels that he has served, and we believe that Mr. Edmond has served and paid his debt to society.
Where my fire starters at? GFTV back with another fire flame meltdown. Make sure y'all hit that like button. Stomp, step, and stand all over that notification bell where you want the latest. And if you ain't a fire starter, hawker, walker, or stalker yet, what you waiting on, family? Come on over here and subscribe. Because we stomp, step, and stand on real morals and traditional principality, and we know ain't nothing morally sound or traditional about the situation we have just witnessed with Rayful Edmond III. All right, now Rayful Edmond was a drug kingpin who stoked a crack cocaine epidemic in Washington, D.C. in the 1980s, and later cooperated with prosecutors to bring down cocaine traffickers years after he was sentenced to life in prison. Died Tuesday in Florida. He was 60 years old. The Federal Bureau of Prisons confirmed his death. They said they had no information on the cause of his death and don't know what happened. But there's been all kinds of stories going around, fire starters, hawkers, walkers, and stalkers, and the conspiracies just keep getting deep. Now, Mr. Edmond had been living at a halfway house in Miami, according to the Federal Bureau of Prisons. All right? When personnel tried to reach out to the Federal Bureau of Prisons, no one are answering any calls, no one are answering any messages, no one can get any answers on what happened or what took place leading up to the death of Mr. Rayful Edmond. Mr. Edmond, who was sentenced to life in prison at 25, was the most prominent drug lords in the nation's capital in the 1980s. His profile grew year by year, day by day, week by week, month by month, you might as well say, minute, all the way down to the millisecond. All right? His profile grew as charges against him were aired out in court. Prosecutors accused him of distributing as much as 1/3 of the cocaine that was coming into the city during a period when Washington had the nation's worst murder rate. Some say his drug empire moved 400 pounds of cocaine and generated up to $2 million per week. Mr. Edmond also oversaw a 150-member drug ring that employed minors and imported cocaine from around the country, prosecutors said. His success financed a lavish lifestyle that included luxury cars and designer goods. Mr. Edmond denied being involved in drug dealing. His influence grew so much. His influence grew so much, fire starters, hawkers, walkers, and stalkers, to the point everybody in DC wanted to be like him. Everybody would come from all over DC to see Rayful Edmond in action at clubs, just to see him pull up with these chains, nice looking suits, his crew, sort of like how Willie Burgers was in Harlem when everybody pulled up showing off what their benefits of drug dealing, all right, actually showing the fruits of their labor. Well, this was actually what was going on down there in DC when it came to Rayful Edmond, all right? People said when he popped up at the club, it was like a movie. People say, all right, it was basically like a red carpet show, as people also came from New York, all right, Florida. Some even say all the way from California, his connections were. But not only that, y'all, not only did his influence literally motivate and move a whole nation, so did the demon crack cocaine that took over people's lives, even professional ball player athletes. That's right. As Rayful influence grew in popularity in the late 1980s, he was seen with stars from Georgetown Hoyas basketball team that prompted team's coach John Thompson to request a team meeting, and he was irate when he heard about the allegations about his players actually hanging around Mr. Rayful Edmond and the things they might be involved in. John Thompson urged Mr. Rayful Edmond to stay away from his players and stay away from his team, or else, because word was getting back that his players were hanging around him and being influenced in the wrong way. Some wasn't showing up for practice. Some wasn't exceeding their full potential on the basketball court. So, with that being said, Mr. John Thompson knew that there was something going on deeper on the back end. As we done heard about multiple players, okay, college players that was hooked on this crack cocaine back in the 1980s that never made it to play pro ball. Some were found dead, some were found shot and killed, Some even tried to be drug dealers. Can you believe that? Mr. Edmond shared his wealth with loyal friends, even giving children in his neighborhood $100 bills. According to prosecutors and some people that turned state who gave testimony in court, they say he was the original Nino Brown. He started the original Dollar Day. And that's where they got that actual idea from the movie New Jack City. Now, I don't know how true this is. This is all just alleged. All right. But also, all right, his enterprise devastated lives. All right. And they charged him with 3 counts of murder. Some even say he touched $300 million. Can y'all believe this, y'all? Okay? They call him the $300 million man. But his trial on drug trafficking charges became a test case for the prosecution, suspecting drug lords all around the nation who are feared in the communities where jurors live. Members of the jury in his case were separated from spectators by bulletproof glass, and their identities were kept secret. An informant whose name was accidentally disclosed in court was later shot in the leg. After the jury sentenced Mr. Edmond to life in prison without the possibility of parole in 1990, after a jury convicted him of running a criminal drug enterprise, he was not convinced. He was not convicted on the murder charge. He actually had a nerve to speak at trial. Mr. Edmond spoke up, and this is what he said to the jury. I think that me and my family and my friends all should have been found not guilty, he told the Washington Post after his conviction. All of us are loving, caring people who have kids. We're just like everyone else in Washington, D.C. But I also think Mr. Edmond failed to realize, yes, he has kids, his friends had kids, his family had kids, and obviously, everyone has to feed their kids. But he also was taken away from kids as their parent got hooked on the product that you were selling, causing them to go to extreme measures to get it, even if it means starving them out and the baby suffering for it. So it's still not right. And even after his conviction, fire starters, even from prison, he did not stop drug trafficking. Mr. Edmond expanded his operations after building deeper connection with drug traffickers to the point where he was trafficking more cocaine while in prison than he had outside, the Deputy Attorney General at the time, Eric Holder, told 60 Minutes in 1997. Rayful Edmond name ring bells so much, even people from up north, from New York, Harlem, USA, themselves, Alpo Martinez, and many others were going down to D.C. just to get some of that money because they heard about how much the profit it is going OT. Now we know Alpo and Rich Porter and AZ was selling massive amounts of crack. But can you imagine how much money it had to be for Alpo to actually leave his own city of Harlem And we know he loved Harlem. He was born in Harlem, basically died in Harlem. And for him to leave his city to go out there to D.C., you know money had to be rocking. You know it had to be a risk worth taking. And when Alpo came out there, he wasn't playing either. He was laying shit down. But he wasn't laying shit down by himself as he recruited the most infamous unaliver in the game at that time, which he went by the name Wayne Silk Perry, as Alpo recruited him to be his personal bodyguard, his personal hitman. The story even told that Silk, Wayne Perry, was the actual one to knock down Rich Porter himself. All right, he is supposed to be the trigger man. Not only that, this is why this man was so dangerous. This is also why Al Poe decided to have him as his bodyguard in DC. Because anybody that got in his way, he was going to make sure Wayne Perry took care of it. He was going to take care of him. Al Poe would have never got as big as he got if it wasn't for Silk Wayne Perry. But back to Rayful. Mr. Edmond, control of the drug trade made him an object of fascination for rap artists in the 1990s. Jay-Z referenced him. Why name his song in 1996, Can I Live? And I guess his mom wanted to know, can she live? And she also got caught up in Rayful Edmond's enterprise as she was sentenced to 20 something years in prison in a role that she played. But what makes it very interesting is, okay, his parents actually worked for the government at one point in time. So I don't know what happened in the meantime, in between time, but something definitely ain't right. Not to mention, all right, Rayful, his success accumulated so much financial gain and status behind the prison system. The Department of Justice created a task force to curb drug trafficking in prison. Eventually, Mr. Edmond pleaded guilty in 1996 to brokering deals between DC dealers and Colombian drug cartels from a Pennsylvania prison. He eventually became a major informant. He testified as a government witness in other cases that led to convictions of other cocaine traffickers, participated in covert sting operations, and fed the government information on the killings of 2 inmates in a Pennsylvania prison. During his prison bid, he was working as an FBI informant for 20 plus years. Fire starters, hawkers, walkers, and stalkers. Drop that like, drop some fire and TVs in the chat. Let me know what y'all think, because this is crazy. Not only that, y'all, all right, his decision to cooperate with authorities will put him in danger. The government placed him in a witness protection program and transferred him to an undisclosed prison where he lived under a different name. All right. He also led to the arrest and the conviction of more than 100 drug dealers, the government said. All right. As he makes this statement that was sent out to The Washington Post. I am sorry for everybody I hurt, for everybody I disappointed, he said in the 2019 court hearing over a motion to reduce his sentence. If I ever get the opportunity, I will do my best and whatever it takes to make it up for all my crime. I remember watching a documentary on Rayful Edmond back in the day. And I remember this scene right here when he was getting on that helicopter or he was going to court and he looked at the camera and he said, I'll be back. I'll be back soon. Well, in 2021, Mr. Edmond's sentence was reduced from life to 20 years. The federal district court in Washington pointed to the unparalleled magnitude of his cooperation. His release had been scheduled for November 2025, but somehow, some way, he wound up getting released early via starters, hawkers, walkers, and stalkers. But not only that, okay, Rayful Edmond served exactly 33 years in prison. Some say he even told on 300 people, and he died at the age of 60. Wasn't even out a good 4 months. This is crazy. What do y'all think, fire starters? Do y'all think Rayful Edmond was better off in jail? Because like you said, you snitch on 300 people and you've been a government informant for over 20 years doing your whole prison stint, damn near. All right, I can honestly say, man, if I was in his shoes, I'd be looking over my shoulder every day. What y'all think, man? Do y'all think all this is very odd and very strange? Y'all let me know what y'all think. Like, share, subscribe. Always remember, fear the fire and fear the flame. R.I.P. DC, very own, the infamous one, Rayful Edmond. God.